Hi, this is Bob Moog, and I am today interviewing a very special man, a gentleman who's been in the toy industry as long as I have, and who has worked with every major company in the industry, designing games and toys, Mr. Dan Klitsner. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty
nice
good.
to see you.
How are you?
Good. And I wanted to ask if you could talk a little bit about the first toy you ever sold, and how that went, what that story was like. A lot of people watching are trying to figure out how to become you. So I want them to understand how it started in the very beginning.
Well, I'm going to have to remember that back before I was an industrial designer who started out. I'm an industrial designer who loves games. So many of my games have mixed industrial design with gameplay. Mm-hmm. And I originally started out doing preschool games with Discovery Toys, and I had heard that you could pitch ideas to toy companies.
Were you employed by Discovery Toys at the time?
No, it was one of my freelance industrial design clients.
Okay.
I was actually doing liquor bottles, toilet bowl cleaner bottles, and toys. You know,
wow.
They go quite well together.
Well, yeah, if it's a bad toy, you go into the toilet and start drinking, and then you throw up, and then you got to clean the toilet.
That's right. In fact, the Woodford Reserve bourbon bottle is still out there. It's one of the bottles I designed.
And what toy does that go with?
I'd put that bet. Well, maybe the first game that I licensed was actually Gogo Worms.
Really?
Do you know that
game?
I
know the game, but I didn't know you did it.
I can't believe anyone knows the game.
I know the game.
It was a game that I had met through a variety of attempts at getting to be seen by toy companies. It was with Ron Weingartner from
Milton
Bradley.
Yep.
And eventually Bill Dorman.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the idea that they had just done a game with Play-Doh that you splatted, a footprint, which is funny that recently there's been other games with Play-Doh.
Right.
But it was a plastic foot that you stomped into the Play-Doh, and they said, we want some other games with with Play-Doh. So it was the idea of an extruder that you raced worms in slow motion.
Right.
And the invention of it was that when you took little bits of Play-Doh and extruded them, there were wheels on the bottom of the extrusions so that you could extrude something across the entire table instead of it curling up. So it was this funny game of a slow motion worm race, and it was very exciting. I remember,
Well, I remember seeing it at Toy Fair. They had a whole they had a thing at Toy Fair like the size of this room, didn't they? For Gogo Worms?
It was very, lasted a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then what was funny is they said, this is going great. Now Parker Brothers at the time wasn't part of Hasbro. They wanted to do their game with something soft. And so I did the next year this game called Gum Guys. The reason because Gogo Worms and Gum Guys were, both with a G, and it was silly putty that you formed into these. It was supposed to be gum under your desk that you stuck, and you were trying to put weights on the other person's gum so it would hit the ground first.
And whoever's hit the ground first
lost.
Yeah.
So you rolled the dice, and so those were the only two games I had licensed. And I thought it was funny because I showed up at Toys R Us one day, and there they were. I was with someone, and I said, what have you invented? Let's just start in the G's. Oh, here's two Gogo Worms. Gum Guys.
And then,
I don't want to bore you. I don't want to
bore you and walk the whole aisle. We'll just stop here in the G's.
We'll just stop here in the G's. So I was
Toys R Us always back then had their games alphabetical, so he knew when he went to the G's that both his games would be in.
So I specialized in games using soft compounds that started with the letter G.
Oh,
it's very special.
So you had a Dan Klitsner section.
Yeah.
It
was my niche. So those were the first, and that got me the relationship with the
big companies. Yeah, that's great. And in terms of the things that you've done now, how many have gone to market? Do you ever keep count, or do you have any idea?
I don't actually. I know that I know how many because we number how many we've attempted.
Okay, how many have you attempted?
I've taken something like 3,800 shots on goal.
Wow.
A lot of concepts. Some of them concepts. Many of them prototypes. Many of them things in a closet that we've recently had to throw out to make room for other things in the closet. But of those, it's usually around a 10%. So it's. I know of
300.
300. I think ones that have been published and out there. There's probably 100 that have been out over 25 years.
Yeah.
And but yeah, just a few. stars.
So explain to me, because I'm interested in this, but people watching also might be interested. How do you define success? You know, you're a game inventor. How many professionals are there out there? It has to be in the low hundreds, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a pretty small group.
It's a small group. And is success getting an option to do your game? Is success getting the game made? How do you think about it in your company?
Well, I think it's a few of those things. You know, like coming here, of course, success is finding the right company at the right time to do the right game.
Yeah.
And with the right person.
And do you think about it in terms of how long the game's on the market, or how much money you make on the game, or how much you like the game? How do you figure that out?
A little of both. I mean, I think I'd be, obviously love it if a game is highly successful and you make money.
Yeah.
We want enough success.
You're running a business on some level.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of inventors sort of, I used to do industrial design consulting and on the side invent games. Now do the games and then often do industrial design consulting on those games. So a success might just be a great project that pays for the time we spend on it, and then if it does well, that's sort of the profit. But sometimes a game you can spend a lot of time, as you know, on many iterations, and finally, it might sell. And we don't really track, we spent more or less hours on something. But I think the success of a game, you fall in love with the game and you just can't put it down. You want to get it right. If it plays well and it looks like it's going to cost well, you just sort of believe that you'll find the right, and no one's done it before, you'll find the right company and maybe the right theme that it'll work.
What I've noticed, though, when I think back to Bill Dorman in those days, in the 1980s and early 90s, there was a whole group of professional game and toy inventors, and only about 10% of them are still active. Is that because it's really hard to be sustainable over decades, or because there's some strange quirk in your personality that you just can't give it up?
Maybe they didn't drink. They didn't
drink enough. They didn't drink enough. So, but what do you think is the secret of sustainability in your industry?
I mean, most of the guys I know, luckily, there's a bunch of guys and a few women that I've known for, maybe the fact that it's mostly guys tells you something about maybe the stupidity of doing this. The women are too smart to do it. But over 25 years, probably many of the people that I see on the circuit, I met 25 years ago. Probably half of the people I know I've known for 25 years, and we've really, got to respect and know each other. We get to talk about everything, our families, we can whine, anything but the concepts themselves that we're working on.
So you won't talk about your actual products, but you actually have a social network with these people as well as a business network, and they're in a sense competitors.
They are, but we can commiserate better than anyone we know.
Right.
We all know what we're going through, so I think we learn to really appreciate the success. When you say what defines success, I think all of us would say, wow, seeing your product finally make it to the showroom,
that's how I
toy
feel.
fair, it's out there, and then really you care, like if you were in a play, as I know in theater, having applause. Even if the play isn't financially successful or being on stage, you just want to know that it connected with people, and that corny to say, I really want my kids to like it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. My biggest thrill on games that University Games makes is not how much we sell and not how much I like the game, but when I go to a birthday party that one of my kids was at, and someone, not me, someone else who doesn't even know University Games bought that and gave it as a birthday present. I watched the child open it. It's like, wow, that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for what we do. Two last questions. What has been financially your most successful product, and what's your favorite game? Or your favorite product you've done?
Financially, Bop It has been...
Bop It is beyond everything else.
A dream come true, and I've done things on the story of how that came about, and just the whole journey, and Bill Dorman, who discovered, and just to say again, the favorite quote of all time for me was showing him this idea in a hotel room, and him, I had one success with him, and he looks at it and he goes, we're not doing this kind of game, but we should be.
Wow.
And so that moment of
Wow.
him going, but maybe we should be, is different than often we're not doing this kind of game.
Right.
Period.
And he then became your internal evangelist.
He was the champion.
He was the champion.
It takes a champion internally, as
Yeah.
you know. That was, by far the most successful, and yet, I don't know, the favorite of the game that makes me smile the most from before might have been the toys that we put on the keyboard. They were the first interactive PC playsets, and they were. The reason is it was the first time. This is also around the year that Bop It was done, 1998, and it was the first time Amazon or just online reviews were coming out. And I remember reading these online reviews of it was where you could have this workshop and it connected to the computer and you used real tools and it let you build things that became real on the screen. First interactive physical toy. And seeing reviews of fathers saying, I just played this with my son for my 5-year-old, 3-year-old for 2 hours, and he like seeing that people were willing to go online and say how much they loved a product.
Right.
Like you said, and I didn't know them, it was a feeling of being connected, like, wow, I did something.
And it's making a difference in their lives, even if it's adding learning or entertainment or bonding a father and a son. It's very cool.
It was that that feeling of, so that product that connects you to people you don't know is really, I think, special. It's like that, the connection part.
When people ask you what you do for a living, what do you tell them?
I tell them I'm a rejection acceptance specialist.
That's really good.
Because
That's really good. I may use that. That's really good.
Statistically, I'm 10 times better at that than on being an inventor, because it's like, I have to be rejected 10
times. You get
times.
rejected 10 times for every one yes.
So statistically, I'm much better at that.
That's great. Hey, Dan, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us at UG Studios. I hope you'll come back and we can do this again sometime. You're in San Francisco with me, so it's easy.
I know. Well, that's why we have to come to New York to see each other.
Right, exactly. Thanks a lot.